Hey everybody, how is everybody doing this evening? Thank you so much for joining me this evening. I sorry I'm running late. I do all of this by myself, so I had to take a senior citizen nap this afternoon, to be blunt honest, and took a little bit too long of a nap, so I was running a little bit behind. So excuse me. So still getting over this flu bug. Um, can't believe the body makes so doggone much mucus. I know, TMI, but it's just been a week, a heck of a week. I hope everybody's doing well. Like I said, I hope you're all staying safe. We're going to be talking about the news that happened last week in the trucking industry. Also, I'm going to be also recording last week's episode. Uh, there again, everything just kind of fell apart. So I do everything, and I have a little bit of help from a family member. Um, but I do most of the research myself, all of the articles. Then I do all of the slides, and besides working anywhere from 40 to 60 hours a week at my job, so it's a lot. And so if I'm running behind, thank you so much for your patience, and I greatly appreciate you all keep tuning in and keep listening. So in our first story, uh, blowing dust is a possible cause of a large crash involving 6 semi trucks that killed 4 people. Investigators say that blowing dust may have been the cause of a serious wreck, including involving multiple commercial vehicles. That this happened on March 1st in Tonopah, Arizona, just before 1 o'clock in the afternoon along Interstate 10. According to the local news, police say the incident was a chain reaction crash involving 6 semis, 4 passenger vehicles, 4 cars, a van, and an RV towing a trailer. 4 people were killed in the crash. 2 were in critical condition at the time. 6 more people were also injured. The official cause of the incident was not released at that time, but there was numerous dust storm warnings around the time of the crash. Investigators say the dust storm may have brought blowing dust to the area, causing severely reduced visibility. That happens quite often, Arizona and New Mexico, along 10 and I believe along 40, because it's all high desert. And when you get the winds blowing, we're talking 10, 15, 20 miles an hour. So it's about like a major dust storm that you just are supposed to stop, pull over on the shoulder of the road, and if nobody could see, it's kind of like a snowstorm having whiteout conditions. It's really a mess. So I hope those people are okay that were injured, and that they're healing, well, and all this. And next up, a big rig loses his load on an Oklahoma interstate after striking a stalled car, as you see in the picture here. Oklahoma Highway Patrol responded to a collision involving a commercial vehicle in Oklahoma City. This again happened March 1st on I-35. Troopers say that a semi-truck hit a stalled car on the interstate, causing the truck to lose 3 of the large barriers on his trailer. He must have hit him pretty doggone hard. And these are those, what we call a Jersey wall that you see here along the interstate, like they use in construction. to close off a lane or make the two lanes of the interstate one lane while they're working on, like, say, left lane, right lane, whatever. So those are those barriers. And he, in another picture that I didn't add to my slides, one of the barriers actually, if you could see right here, in one of the barriers came over the top of the cab and landed in the road crossways across both lanes. That's how hard he hit that car. There were pieces of the truck, so he's lucky even to be alive that the whole load didn't shift and kill him. The cab of the truck is crushed on the top, and right ahead, like right here in the roadway, one of these barriers is in the road, as I mentioned. So I just, I don't know how, let's see if it says, troopers say that the semi-truck stalled, hit the car, causing him to lose partial of the load. The barrier struck a second vehicle. No serious injuries were reported. They say that it took a while to clear the roadway and get traffic moving again. But it does not say, was he distracted? What was the actual cause of it? Just that he struck this car right here. But he doesn't say what the driver was doing to, that he struck the car. And a truck driver is charged in this story with a negligent homicide after a car driver was discovered submerged in a West Virginia lake. A truck driver is facing charges related to a fatal crash on Cheat Lake Bridge in West Virginia. This happened back in January. The local sheriff's office there announced that a warrant was issued for New York-based truck driver, I'm not going to even try to pronounce his name, on a charge of negligent homicide. He's a Singh, however you pronounce it. I always screw that up. The charge was issued in connection with a fatal crash that occurred on January 19th in 2025 on the Cheat Lake Bridge along eastbound I-68 near Morgantown, West Virginia. Now, 68 runs between, it's the instead of taking the Turnpike, Pennsylvania Turnpike on Interstate 70, 68 runs down and through into Maryland and Washington, D.C. from Pennsylvania. For those of you that aren't in the trucking community and, you happen to be watching this podcast, thank you so much for tuning in. The same day that they received a missing person report for 59-year-old Pennsylvania resident Kevin C. Latterly, who had last spoken to the family while he was driving home from a shift in Morgantown. On January 23rd, police obtained cell phone data that put Latterly's last known location near the Cheat Lake Bridge. This prompted investigators to review surveillance video from that area. When police reviewed the video, they saw a large vehicle sliding on the bridge, throwing snow into the air, and a separate passenger vehicle falling from the bridge into the lake. Drone footage confirmed the presence of a submerged car in the lake. Severe winter weather delayed recovery efforts until the end of January. Rescue crews recovered the submerged car and found that Mr. Latterly was passed away inside the vehicle. So the truck hit in other words, long story short, the truck was sliding along the bridge, probably going too fast. Probably hit black ice because, as we know, bridges freeze first. And the car was next to him, pushed the car off over the bridge into the lake. So, not a good thing. And in Colorado, a historic 1947 truck stop burns to the ground. A historic truck stop at Colorado caught fire on March 2nd at about 4 in the morning. According to local news, the fire department responded to now abandoned Dino 6 and 85 restaurant and lounge on reports of heavy flames. Firefighters battled the blaze at the historic truck stop, opened in 1947. No one was inside of the building, and thankfully no one was hurt in the incident, including, fire department personnel. The cause of the fire at this time is still under investigation. The truck stop closed back in 2017, so it was abandoned. It wasn't being used at the time, which is sad to say, but still a thankful thing that nobody, no occupants or anything were in there when that fire started. That's always a good thing for people, Sad to see that the building burnt, but it's always a good thing that nobody was hurt or injured. And I'm also, last week and this week, my hands are real dry from work. So if I'm rubbing them a lot, they kind of itch. Um, the new section to the show, was released last week, but I'm also going to do a section of it today, here shortly. And up next, a small trucking company will be forced to fire the driver who stole their rig if the stolen rig isn't found. Well, of course. Why are you waiting so long to to fire the driver? Are you not wanting to fire him to get your truck back? He stole it, so he could have scrapped it, sold it for parts. It could have done a whole bunch of things with it. So I just, I don't understand. A small trucking company says they will be forced to fire one of their drivers if the rig he operates for them is not found after a theft. It was last month already this happened. The theft occurred on February 24th at the truck company in Caledonia, Michigan. Stolen Peterbilt semi-truck, as you see here, has American flag wrap with a buffalo on each side. The trailer wasn't stolen. He said that's what the driver makes his living with and supports his family, said company and truck owner Blake Jordan. He may be forced to fire the driver. We don't have the means to replace that truck if it doesn't come back, so then he's going to have to find a different job. Not if he's going to be charged with theft. The theft had been reported to their local sheriff's office. Jordan is offering up to a $5,000 $5,000 for any information leading to the return of the stolen truck. Anyone with information is asked to contact the Kent County Sheriff's Office. They did not leave a phone number, which that sucks. But this would be around Caledonia, Michigan. The Kent County Sheriff's Office. So I hate the news outlet I use for these stories only gives you part of the information, and sometimes I have time to dig further, sometimes I don't. It just depends. So and if you skip the scales in California, it may mean that you'll get an inspection, a ticket, and a possible out of service order. As you can see here, they blanked out the guy's face and put an emoji on it. In California, their highway patrols reminding drivers that they must obey signage directed commercial vehicles to stop at the scale house facilities if they want to avoid the consequences. On the 1st of March, troopers with Grapevine commercial vehicle enforcement facility, and I know that one well, took to social media to scold a trio of commercial vehicle drivers for skipping the scale. Quote, all trucks must stop at scales means all trucks must stop at the scales. We have been focusing our efforts on those trucks that are required to stop and don't. Passing in groups won't help you, as these three found out. You are guaranteed a roadside inspection, a ticket, and possibly an escort back to the scales to be put out of service, where you have to sit at the scales. They will slap a big orange sticker on your driver's side window. They will make you go to bed for 10 hours. So you lose your next load. You're late with the current load if you don't have the time. These are a couple of container drivers. So you miss the boat, you miss the train, whatever you miss at the port to deliver your container, you're screwed. It's just best to go ahead and pull in. And if you're overweight, well, you should have scaled out before. You should have went to the scales and scaled out before you went in, before you took the load. I know a lot of guys that don't. And in Arkansas, a bill bans non-citizens. It says non-citizens. I'm saying illegal aliens. From operating a commercial vehicle without a U.S. issued CDL and English language proficiency. Yes, all 50 states should be doing this, not just one. A bill recently introduced in Arkansas will crack down on non-citizens working as commercial drivers as well as the carriers that employ them. Back in February, the Secure Roads and Safe Trucking Act of 2025 was introduced in the Arkansas legislature. The bill seeks to implement the following provisions. There's 5 of them. Let me read through them real quickly. Requires a domestic commercial license, CDL, in order to operate a vehicle in Arkansas. Requires commercial vehicle operators to demonstrate English language proficiency instead of saying me no speak no English. Be able to read road signs, understand traffic control devices, stoplights and everything else, communicate effectively with emergency services, law enforcement, and other drivers. Establish the offense of criminal use of a commercial vehicle if a non-citizen without a U.S. issued CDL causes bodily harm of another person while operating that motor vehicle. It's a Class D felony here in this country. If a non-citizen without a U.S. issued CDL is operating a semi and causes a fatal crash, they can be convicted of a Class B felony with a minimum of 10-year prison time. So in other words, if you don't have a CDL, you come here from Mexico or Guatemala or Venezuela or wherever, and your cousin's brother's second, removed, helps you get into a semi-truck and you don't have a CDL and you hit somebody and you kill them, you're going to jail. Period. Don't pass go. Ain't monopoly. 10 years minimum. This bill also establishes a public safety emergency that would allow it to go into effect immediately as soon as it passes. So it has been referred to the House Committee on Public Transportation in the state of Arkansas. And up next, a Texas company touts a plan for driver-out commercial freight operations in 2025. Meaning driver-out, meaning driverless, is what I'm taking away from this. Texas company laid out plans for launching a driverless commercial freight line in Texas this year. Houston headquartered Bot Auto issued a statement promising driver-out freight operations to launch in 2025, with continuous autonomous trucking operations between Houston and San Antonio. Bot Auto plans to run the driver-out Houston to San Antonio pilot program lane for at least 4 months, hauling real cargo for commercial shippers. What is real cargo? It's cargo. The founder and CEO, Dr. Xiaodi, Xiaodi, you figure out how to pronounce it, was formerly the founder of the CEO of autonomous trucking tech company TuSimple. They wound down their operations in late 2023, so now he turned around and opened up another company called Bot Auto. After, get this, so TuSimple wound down their U.S. operations in late 2023 after the FBI, SEC, and Committee on Foreign Investment opened investigations into the company's alleged ties to China-based startup Hydron. TuSimple later rebranded to create AI, an AI-empowered animation and video game tech company. Quote, the most predictable breakthrough are the ones no one predicts, says this doctor. 2025 is going to be a big year. Look at what's unfolding across our industry so far. Kodiak demonstration driver out capabilities in the premium basic, Aurora timing their driver out pilot program, Fernride making strides in Europe, and now Bot Auto setting our schedule. To casual observers, this might seem like another wave of hype, but such synchronized predictions across players isn't orchestrated. It's the most organic forecast of genuine breakthrough. The hardware is ready. But since SEC and FBI and Committee on Foreign Investment opened investigations against this doctor with a different company, he's just rebranding himself? Is China still involved? These are all my questions to this. Do you really want to be driving through next to on the interstate? So take a look at that truck. Those of you that aren't in the trucking industry, I could pick these trucks out a mile off. They have nothing but cameras all the way around. On the mirrors, you see the cameras sticking out the sides, sticking out the mirror, the hood. There's mirrors on the hood. There's the side mirrors. They have a bar across the top that has nothing but cameras on it, lights and everything on it and stuff. You're going on the interstate. You really want to be next to one of them? Honestly? You really want to be next to one of them? That a deer, a dog, anything runs out in front of it? And yeah, it's wide open spaces. But how's that truck going to react? A deer, a dog, anything runs out in front of it. How is that truck going to react? We don't know. I don't know. I wouldn't want to be next to that truck. I really wouldn't. Not a driverless truck like that. When you don't know what the heck that AI, because it's all computerized, the cameras and everything, and they're supposed to have, it's not supposed to be 100% autonomous. It's supposed to have a driver in the cab behind the wheel in case of something happens. But how, I have to check into this company when I get time a little bit further. Some of these companies will have a driver remotely operating the truck in, say, San Antonio or something. Okay, either in Houston or San Antonio, in a room, in a cubicle with a remote control. And he's looking through a video screen, like how you're watching me. And that's how the truck is being driven. Kind of like a video game. You want to be next to one of those trucks going down the highway? Think about it. On to the next. Trucking company CEO sounds the alarm after government agencies refuse to help in cargo theft and identity theft. The CEO of a trucking company is sounding the alarm about the prevalence of cargo theft in trucking. If you ever been in trucking industry at all, you kind of know that this goes on because there are a lot more shippers and receivers are cracking down a lot more. Brokers are cracking down a lot more. You never used to, I mean, we're talking ages ago. You never had to make check calls all the time. Now they're calling you up at 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. If you don't check call in with them, they're burning up your phone. It's because of cargo theft, freight theft. So this Adam Blanchard is co-founder and CEO of Double Diamond Transportation and testified before Congress back in February to tell the story of how his company became the victim of an elaborate cargo theft scheme. Quote, about a year ago, our American dream turned into a nightmare, he states, when some unscrupulous criminals stole our identity by capitalizing on our good name. They tarnished the reputation we spent over a decade, to earn, Blanchard said. He explained how the thieves were able to mimic the company website, emails, and even add a dupe company to the FMCSA website. So, FMCSA, Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, they have their own website of all the companies that are out there. When I had my company, I was on that list with my DOT number and make sure that I was in good standings with them. Just one example, they diverted a full truckload of energy drinks with a retail value of well over 6 figures, over 1,000 miles from Texas to California. Because they spoofed my company's emails, the driver was tricked into believing we had made the request for the transportation of that load. Quote, even at this very moment, two of the logistics are listed at the FMCSA's official website, my company and the imposter, says Blanchard. He says he contacted multiple federal agencies about the crime and was offered no help. The Texas Department of Public Safety informed us this wasn't their jurisdiction. The FBI recorded our information but never returned our call. Typical. The Department of Homeland Security met with us but refused to investigate. We did our due diligence, but the message was clear. You're on your own, buddy. Cargo thefts have risen over 1,500% since 2021, reports the local news outlet. Blanchard says the government needs to direct the FMCSA to remove illegitimate carriers and brokers from the SAFER website, which is their website, like I was just mentioning. The industry should be able to trust what's safe and publicize only legitimate entities so that we can make informed decisions when vetting business partners, who you want to haul for, your stuff. Second, he says the government needs to pass a Safeguard Our Supply Chain Act, establishing a federal task force on cargo theft. Third, he mentioned passing the Household Goods Shipping Consumer Protection Act, which would increase penalties against bad actors and protect consumers, he said. 3. Currently, criminals view trucking as a low-risk, high-reward target. We must invert that calculus. And he has a large statement below that was just the highlights of his statement. I have lots of slides to get to. I'm not gonna bore you with exactly what he said. And this truck driver regrettably passes away in the hospital after early morning crash when he crashed into the back of this tanker. A truck driver died in the hospital after crashing into the back of another semi in East Texas. This happened March 4th about 5:15 in the morning in Bridge City, Texas. According to the local news, 48-year-old Keith Kufler was driving a 2016 Freightliner north on Texas Avenue in the middle lane when he crashed onto the back of a 2013 Peterbilt holding a tanker trailer driven by 30-year-old Raymond McCann III. Kufler was transported to a nearby hospital for treatment but died of his injuries. McCann was transported to the same hospital where he was treated for non-life-threatening injuries. Police investigation determined only that Kufler had failed to control his speed before he crashed into the tanker. He was going too fast. And didn't see that the guy was slowing down at that time of the morning. Could have been drowsy. Could be a lot of different things. And yeah, rear-ended him. And almost buried the cab into the back of the tanker if you look closely. And in Rhode Island, 14 people were injured in a crash after a semi truck plows into 12 cars. 14 people were injured in a crash in Rhode Island on Tuesday morning. This happened March 4th in East Providence. A tractor trailer traveling west failed to stop for traffic, colliding with approximately 12 vehicles. Chain reaction. 13 people, including the truck driver, were taken to a nearby hospital with minor injuries. A 14th woman sustained serious injuries that were considered non-life threatening. 64-year-old truck driver John Main had been charged with driving to endanger, resulting in physical injury. No further information on the wreck involving the 12 cars at that time was released. Luckily, nobody got seriously hurt. And here, a flatbed, the deck of it gives out under the weight of steel coils while turning into a parking lot. I am looking down to let new viewers know. I'm looking down because I'm referring to the articles on my tablet. So that's why I'm always looking down. A flatbed trailer broke apart under the weight of steel coils while making a delivery. Oh, he was right there making a delivery, and his doggone flatbed snapped in half. Jeez. He was in Cleveland, Ohio. According to the local news, a flatbed trailer was turning into a parking lot when the trailer broke apart. Oh, I bet you he was tipped. No one was hurt. The steel coils remained, at least on the trailer. They didn't go rolling everywhere. And, well, so what happens is, there again, I'm explaining this for people that aren't in the trucking industry. So you have a flatbed trailer. You have it's aluminum most of the time. And especially this kind of trailer is called it's mainly a steel hauling trailer, and those are all sideboards. So this whole frame right here is all aluminum, and then you have aluminum stripe. Then you have like 3 sections of wood planking, then another aluminum long cross member, and then some more. And how they had the coils, they were smaller coils. They weren't the big large ones. They were smaller coils, and I think it was 3 space and then 3. And this is toward the back, and this is also what's called a spread axle. And you just set it just right, and the weight of it, they didn't load it right, and the weight of it just broke the trailer in half. Don't know how old the trailer was either. After a while, the aluminum is gonna give out. And pileups are reported in Iowa on Interstate 35 and Interstate 80 amid blizzard conditions. Authorities in Iowa responded to pileup crashes around Des Moines. This occurred on I-35 southbound near Huxley, about 20 miles north of Des Moines. 15 vehicles were involved in the crash, officials say. It wasn't yet clear whether anyone was hurt. It was cars and trucks. The cause of the crash is still under investigation at that time. The video that was shared shows severe winter weather conditions and low visibility from blowing snow. I-80 pileup near Newton, Iowa. Isn't clear how many vehicles were involved in that one either. So they're like, stay off the highway, people. When it's blowing snow and everything, you don't need to go anywhere. And a car is crushed beneath the semi in a four-vehicle wreck near Phoenix, Arizona. Serious wreck left a car crushed beneath the semi-truck near Phoenix. This happened March 5th, close to 8 o'clock in the morning on the eastbound side, Loop 202, Red Mountain near McClintock Drive in Tempe, Arizona. According to the local news, a semi-truck and 3 passenger vehicles were involved in a multi-vehicle crash that left 4 people injured. 2 people sustained life-threatening injuries and 2 more were seriously hurt. The car crushed beneath the semi-truck appears to have had its roof cut off to free the people inside. Another car was seen pulled over to the shoulder with damage to its rear ends. All but the HOV lane was closed for cleanup and investigation of the incident. The cause of the crash near Phoenix wasn't determined at the time of the writing of the article. And here a driver is sentenced to 579 months in prison for a fatal crash after partying with hitchhikers. A truck driver is sentenced to more than 48 years in prison on, let's see, it would have been like March 5th, after a crash with a packed van that killed 7 people after a night partying with hitchhikers. Who would trust? I'm not going to say who would trust, but the accident happened back in 2023 near Albany, Oregon, so the guy just got sentenced. He was sentenced March 4th, I'm sorry. According to the local news, he was convicted of 7 counts of manslaughter in the 2nd degree, 3 counts of assault in the 3rd degree, and 1 count of reckless driving. He was found not guilty of driving under the influence of intoxicants. His sentence of 48.25 years is a total of each conviction sentence served consecutively. He has been sentenced without the possibility of reduction. During his trial, he testified they had been partying with what was described as hitchhikers the night before the crash. He admitted that during his partying he had used meth and cocaine. Evidence at trial showed that he began to feel tired while driving around noon, but continued driving for 2 more hours before eventually falling asleep at the wheel. Then crashed into the van. Blood tests after the crash confirmed the presence of meth and cocaine and fentanyl in his blood system. Well, I'm sorry, but if you had all that crap in your system and then you got behind the wheel the next morning, then you deserve everything you got. Sorry. Not sorry. Just saying. And I skipped a slide, but this day in history, in March of every year, they want to call it Women in History Month. I don't like to call it that. I'm trying to get away from all that. Black History Month, the other month, veterans need to have a month. I completely agree. But Lula Bates is said to be the first woman truck driver. Hold on 1 second. She was born October 17th, 1897. Passed November 25th, 1985. And is believed to be the first licensed woman truck driver. So this day in trucking history. Lula Bates was the first of 6 female employees for the 4-wheel drive auto company, chosen as test and demonstration drivers, and worked as an forward truck driver from 1918 to 1922. As you see here in the photo, she is driving a B model FWD B model truck and dumping a load of sand. In January 1920, Bates drove a Model B to New York City, where she attended the New York City Auto Show. During her stay, she met with Secretary of State of New York, Frances Hugo, and became the first woman truck driver to receive a driver's license in the state of New York. Bates was such a hit in New York that Four Wheel Drive decided to utilize her skills even further. In 1920, they sent her on three transcontinental tours throughout the United States. The advertising scheme introduced the idea that FWD truck was easier to steer, as evidenced by a woman driver. During her first tour, she represented Frances Hugo's Safety First campaign. She toured approximately 25 towns, beginning in Kansas City, Missouri, and finishing in Bellefontaine, Ohio. While in Erie, Pennsylvania, she flew over the city in an aeroplane and saturated Erie with information about the four-wheel drive company and its vehicles. In May 1920, Popular Science magazine referred to her as Exhibit A of feminine efficiency. She returned to Clintonville, Wisconsin in late July 1920. She began her next tour within the month, traveling to state fairs throughout the eastern United States. In September, she drove her truck loaded with coal through the streets of Utica, New York. Both an expert driver and a mechanic, Bates is more than capable of completing all maintenance of her truck. During her final tour of 1920, Bates took the southern states by storm. She was now known as Our Girl Driver. In Oklahoma, she defied the police and took her truck across a flooded road, hauling meat for a packaging plant. This courageous venture led to the sale of 10 trucks for four-wheel drive and much admiration for Bates. Over the next 2 years, Bates traveled as a demonstrator, both locally and throughout the U.S., demonstrating the Model B truck and the newly developed fire trucks. In early December 1922, Bates moved to Milwaukee, later marrying Howard Coates and having 2 sons. Her descendants include one granddaughter and 3 great-grandchildren, one of whom is actress Ashley Henshaw. Lula Bates has been included in several books about the four-wheel drive company, the history of trucking, and the history of Clintonville, Wisconsin. Grew up in Wisconsin. During the infancy of the trucking industry, she played an important role in the history of women in trucking. So there you go. That is my version of this date in trucking history. Now back to the news. In this story, commercial vehicle inspection uncovers 2 stolen vehicles, say officers. A truck driver is facing charges after commercial vehicle inspection and search by Canadian cops reveal a pair of stolen vehicles. This happened March 4th at the Curry Hill Truck Inspection Station in South Glengarry Township near Ontario, Quebec. The shipping document said the truck was hauling a load of household items destined for an overseas country, but when officers took a look in the container, they discovered 2 vehicles that were stolen. Both vehicles have been reported stolen in the Greater Toronto area. They charged a 61-year-old man from Mississauga with 2 counts of possession of property obtained by crime over $5,000. He was also charged with an unsecured load violation. For not chaining them down. That's why I'm laughing. Not only he's going to get for stolen property, but dude, you forgot to chain him down. Oh, goodness. The things people try to get away with. That's why I'm chuckling. And in Minnesota, a driver somehow avoids sliding right off of a snowy Minnesota interstate. A truck driver barely avoids sliding right off a snowy interstate and off an overpass in Minnesota. But you could see he landed on the guardrail and took out his front tire. The incident happened on I-694 at White Bear Avenue on March 5th. According to the local news, the semi was traveling on an overpass when it started to slide. The truck came to a stop with a cab hanging over the edge of the roadway and was able to avoid sliding right off the overpass. Traffic was diverted as crews worked to pull the truck back onto the roadway. Snowy conditions through the remainder of Wednesday morning. Sunny conditions are expected the next day, which may help to melt the snow left on the roadways. Excuse me. Now you're gonna go, what the hey on this one? So a driver lays it over, as I call it, trying to pass a power line work trucks on a muddy shoulder. They got the road blocked off. My hair, I swear. Sorry. They got the road blocked off. They're working, say, in the right or the left lane. And because you can't slow down, you're going to try to pass them on a muddy shoulder and lay it over. That's one of these. It's like, really? A semi-truck tipped over while trying to drive around a crew of power line work trucks in Mississippi, where I'm located. Incident happened March 3rd in Jones County in the area of Pool Creek Road. According to the local news, a semi-truck approached the work trucks, which were working on power lines that were damaged by fallen trees during a bad weather that came through, and attempted to drive around them. The semi-truck drove into the muddy shoulder of the roadways and tried to pass the work trucks, where the mud eventually caused the truck to lay over. The semi-truck was loaded with feed at the time of the accident. Diesel was also spilled. That looks like a tanker, though. Okay, if you say so. Luckily, the driver wasn't hurt. I don't like to have anybody hurt, even though he is a dumb shit, can we say? To do something goofy like that. And here's another one. Here's some more brilliance. So for those of you who are hopefully viewing, take a second. I watch a channel out of England, Sean Atwood, and another gentleman that also does videos on his channel, Sean Atwood's channel, by Ron Swanson, Project Rook, ROOQ. And he gave me a shout out today because I was throwing in some comments, nice comments. So if any of you from the UK or Scotland are watching, trying to break it down, in this country, this is an oversized load. You're supposed to have a permit, and then they're supposed to route you. Well, this gentleman in this story didn't have a permit. He's with an oversized load. He wasn't even supposed to be in this construction zone, and he's stuck. And as you can see, he takes up like the whole roadway. He's wider than a car. So a semi-truck hauling an unpermitted oversized piece of farm equipment got stuck in a construction zone in Oklahoma. This happened March 5th near Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. According to the local news, a semi-truck was hauling a large piece of farm equipment on westbound Interstate 240 when it tried to pass through a construction zone underneath Interstate 40 overpass. The cargo quickly became stuck between the narrow temporary barrier walls, these walls right here, we call them like Jersey walls, in place due to the construction. The highway patrol had to be called. to the scene, where it was determined that the unpermitted wide load was exempt from typical oversized load permit because it was hauling farm equipment. Oh, you have to excuse me. Ugh. It's been 75 here today, so it's kind of toasty in here. The load was also missing an overweight permit, which was legally required to have. The load was also traveling without forward and rear escorts, which is a separate car, van type vehicle to let them know, hey, you shouldn't be on this road, or kind of watch out for other cars coming up behind him, just an escort. Crews were able to move the temporary barriers and free the semi and its load, which was over 14 feet wide, which is how wide that section of roadway here in this country. Had the company applied for a free farm oversized permit, they would have received a different approved route, as I mentioned, and could have avoided this situation, said the Highway Patrol. So, trying to save money, trying to skirt around the law, a lot of times will bite you in the butt. And this bridge in Lake Charles, Louisiana is partially closed for repairs of damage that was done back in that hurricane came through in 2020. Hurricane Laura hit Louisiana and surrounding areas in August of 2020, damaging lighting along the Interstate 210 bridge in Lake Charles. Now, nearly 5 years later, $8 million for the project will shut down several lanes of the bridge to repair the lighting. I'm sorry, not lightning, lighting, starting this week. According to the local news, I-210 eastbound side of the bridge will experience alternating left and right lane closures from 8 o'clock in the morning till 4 p.m. and from 9 p.m. to 4 a.m. from March 10th to the 20th. So this week and next week, if you're going that way on Interstate 10 through Lake Charles, I would go through town. Just saying. I-210 westbound will experience alternating left and right lane closures from March 10th through the 14th. And then left lane of I-210 westbound will be closed until further notice. The bridge will be closed off to westbound traffic from 9 p.m. to 4 a.m. from March 14th through the 20th. Lacey said the nearby Cove Lane exit will stay open through the closures. An 11-foot width limit will be in place on the bridge during these repairs. The entire project is expected to be completed by the fall. So, go through town. And the U.S. Department of Transportation announces Adrian Kamir as the new Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration head. March 7th, Adrian Kamir was tapped for a role of Deputy Administrator and Acting Administrator of the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, or what our trucking industry has to go under, that federal agency. In this role, Ms. Kamir will lead their efforts to advance commercial motor vehicle safety, improve the efficiency of the nation's freight and passenger transportation systems, and restore common sense principles. Good luck with that one. To regulatory oversight. I am pleased to welcome Adrian Kamir as Acting Administrator and U.S. Secretary of Transportation Sean P. Duffy. Ms. Kamir is a dedicated leader who brings executive experience, vision, and strong commitment to safety. I have no doubt FMCSA will continue to make our roads safer and keep America moving under their leadership. Excuse me. Oh, that came on. Goodness, excuse me. Did not see that one coming. Kamir is a BA in Economics and Political Science from University and JD from Suffolk University Law School. So she's a lawyer. She previously worked at US DOT as Chief Counsel of Federal Highway Administration, overseeing all legal services with respect to their management of the Federal Aid Highway Program. Um, she's honored to lead the FMCSA in its mission to prevent commercial motor vehicle crashes, fatalities, and injuries on our nation's roads. I look forward to working closely with the stakeholders to advance our shared safety goals. So, in other words, you know nothing about the trucking industry. You're a lawyer and you know about finance. You know nothing about what we do out here. So, Ms. Adrienne, come here. When you going to jump in a truck and go out for a week to find out what we actually need are doing out here? Hmm? Calling you out. Jump in a truck for a week with another lady driver. And see what we do out here. Honestly. I bet you won't. I bet you won't. And a trucking company in this story and in the driver is issued 28 tickets for more than $38,000 after overheight crash into an overpass. A trucking company and a driver were issued more than 24 tickets and nearly $40,000 in fines after a bridge strike in Edmonton. This happened in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. According to the local news, semi-truck hauling construction equipment collided with the overpass in the early morning hours. The accident forced the closure of all lanes and halted westbound traffic on the freeway. The turning lane on the 34th Street overpass was still closed as of Thursday afternoon, which would have been the 6th of March, so 2 days later. This collision caused a lot of disruption for drivers throughout the day and the nighttime. It's an important reminder for drivers of big semis to make sure they have all their equipment set up for regulation so that if they're going through areas like an overpass or bridge that they're following the required laws for traveling on these roadways, said the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Probably didn't have a permit or went off, the grid. And here, this happened in this country. I-10 in New Mexico closed after a truck hauling an excavator hits the overpass. It's like, what are these guys thinking? You can't stop and go, ooh, yeah, I'm a little low. And they're supposed to have, I'm thinking that they're supposed to have little round mirrors. You got the big, tall, rectangular mirror on our trucks. So you got a round mirror below that, and you're supposed to have round mirrors above that if you're hauling oversized. So you could see if your cargo is going to make it underneath these bridges. Let's get back to the article. Transportation officials in New Mexico say the westbound I-10 near Lordsburg was closed until further notice after a truck hauling heavy equipment struck the overpass. This is the I-10 at exit 24. And this happened March 7th. And yeah. Firefighters reported no fatalities on the scene, but the New Mexico Department of Transportation said the crash caused significant damage to the bridge deck and other components. It knocked out three of those cross members. Concrete cross members. That's how hard he hit that bridge. And you could see all the rebar hanging down. It's all that little thread looking stuff. And put a hole in the end of the bridge. I-10 westbound will remain closed until further notice as engineers work to assess the damage to the bridge structure. Drivers should expect delays as westbound traffic is being rerouted off and then back on. So you get off the exit, go down, and then you come back on. But yeah, not a good thing. Not a good thing. I'm like, you gotta wonder, what are these guys thinking? They're not. And a dash cammer can't avoid a collision with a semi jackknifing on a New York interstate. New York State Police shared dash cam video of a two-truck crash that occurred as a reminder of how weather could quickly affect the road conditions. This video was captured at 6 o'clock in the evening, northbound I-81 in Homer, New York. You could see a semi losing control while traveling in the left lane ahead of the dash cammer. The out of control truck veers into the right lane and then the jackknives back toward the left lane, leaving the dash camera nowhere to go to avoid the crash. It isn't clear if the white passenger vehicle on the shoulder of the roadway contributed to the crash. The state patrol said that neither truck driver was injured. And it's on Facebook Watch under New York State Police. YouTube gets kind of pissy when I do videos. I've explained that in the past. So I greatly appreciate you taking the time to join me this evening on this 143rd episode of Julia's Trucking Cafe. I know it's late, but I greatly appreciate your continued support. If you would like to support the show, you can by going to the website at juliastruckingcafe.com, scrolling down to the bottom of the page and hit the donate button. I would greatly appreciate it. It helps keep the show going. And like I said, I do this all by myself. So thank you so much. Keep the shiny side up. And until next time,